Hey team, let's get to the miscongeniality of soups. Clam chowder, MVP. I don't know anyone that don't like clam chowder. All right, we're gonna make a quart of clam chowder. Um, Things to know that the word chowder derives from the word from chowderie, which is cauldron. All right, this soup was developed in the northeast New England, uh, Newfoundland up there, uh, and there's many different versions of it, right? But the idea is that a chowder consists of a soup that is thickened by potatoes, and it's usually fish or shellfish. Um, there's many versions. Um, we we even make a vegan version. Um, but things that you're gonna need for this soup: one russet potato, small dice. You have your 2 cups of fish stock. You're going to need about 2 ounces of your blonde roux that you made. All right. And next on the tray, we have onion, celery, 1 bay leaf, about 3 slices of bacon diced up, about a half a cup of heavy whipping cream, your clams and their juices, Tabasco, Worcestershire, a spoon, a whisk, and some canola oil. And I have a pot right here over medium-low heat. And let's get started. First thing I want to do is I'm going to add a little bit of oil to my pan. Although we're cooking bacon, this bacon that you got, the class from the last garmage in the spring made this bacon, and it doesn't have nearly as much fat as store-bought bacon. This is a country style cured bacon, which means we actually salt packed it instead of brine curing it. So the amount of fat that is in there on the belly wasn't the same to start with, and then you won't get as much fat as you need for this soup. Okay, we're gonna put the bacon in there. We're gonna render this guy for about let's say 3 to 4 minutes, depending on your heat. I like medium heat. Anytime that you're cooking bacon, I don't like starting too hot because I feel like it doesn't develop full amount of flavor. You'll end up with crispy bacon in the outside that is not very tasty because you're not letting the fat actually cook it very well. So we're gonna render this guy right here, and then I'm going to, while this is rendering, I'm going to organize myself over here. And I like organizing myself. Number one, always have your full mise en place ready before you start your soup. Okay. Number two, I like organizing myself in the way that I'm going to make my additions into my pan. All right. That way I don't have to think about it too much. Okay. I have my onions and my celery, my bay leaf. That's all in there. And then I'm going to need my roux, and then I'm going to need my potatoes and my liquid, and lastly the clams and the seasoning. Alright, there we go, we're nice and organized, and now we should be ready to go. Bacon smelling really good. Don't let it stick to the bottom of your pot, just keep moving it around. When you see it about halfway there, is when we're going to add the onions. Okay. When you make this this recipe, you'll notice that you can substitute the clams for salmon, corn. So all about the same thing. In the past, the soup was thickened by just potatoes, and if you wanted to do that, you surely could. Just use something like a russet potato and cut it small, and then use a different kind of potato and cut it in a bigger size, and then let this potato break down so it thickens your soup. And you'll have to add a good amount of it, and then by the time when your potatoes, when you're first set of potatoes start breaking down, then you add your second set of potatoes. That way you'll have solid potatoes and potatoes that actually thicken the soup. But for this case, we're going to use a little bit of roux here, and that's very traditional, either roux or a slurry of cornstarch. All right, my bacon is about halfway there. Now I can grab my my onions and my celery and my bay leaf, and they're gonna go in the pot. All right, there we go. The goal here is to get those onions and that celery half sweated. When they're about halfway, we're good to go there. Okay? The water that is going to come out of the onions and the celery should help you get all the fond from the bottom of the pan. You see this right here. Some of the bacon has created some fond down there, and the liquid that we get from the onions will help you start removing that. But we don't want any color on the onions. Continue moving it. It should be done here shortly. This soup is actually very fast soup to make. If you have everything cut up, we should be done fairly quickly. Especially if you have your roux already prepared, which I highly recommend. Almost there, guys. All right. At this point, I have my broth right here, or my chicken stock, or my fish stock, and that's gonna go in my pan. Nice little half frozen. But it should come up to heat fairly quickly here. So my stock already melted and it's coming to a simmer. I'm going to grab my clams, and something that is very important about this soup is that if we add the clams right now, they'll overcook and they'll get really, really tough and you'll have horrible chowder. But what I do want to do is use that clam juice that is in here. Okay, so I'm just going to use the lid, but you can use a strainer if you like, and then pour your clam liquid into the pot. Okay. So I have my clam juice and my fish stock in here, and now I have it up and high, so it's gonna come to a simmer here fairly quickly. soon as this comes to a simmer, we're gonna start working the roux in. Things that are important to know: if you made the roux just now, incorporate the warm roux onto cold liquid. If your liquid is hot and your roux is hot, you're gonna have lumps. If your liquid is cold and your roux is cold, you're gonna have lumps. So one of them has to be hot, one of them has to be cold in order for them to dissolve properly. Okay, so if you just did the roux, then make sure that you either cool that down or add it immediately when you add the stock here, so it's nice and cold, and then gradually bring it up. Okay. Another thing that is important is that now that we have a lot of liquid in here, we want to scrape the bottom of that pot to make sure we take all the fond from the bottom of the pot. Okay. I guess I got some steam here already, so I know that my stock is almost ready for some roux. We know we need about 2 ounces, 2 to 3 ounces, I believe. I have my roux is cold, or room temperature. It's not hot, but it's not cold from the fridge. If you put it in the fridge, it'll get solid. So make sure you shave some off before you need it in here. Okay, so my whisk is gonna come in handy now, and I'm gonna grab some of my roux, and I'm going to put it in here. You can always add more, guys. Okay, you can always add more. I'm gonna go like so, and now I'm going to whisk. I know that your soup has to come to a boil for that roux to dissolve and also produce the thickness that we need. But it's quick. Like mine is already thick, that's why I'm turning it down. And I'm going to continue whisking like so. Okay, and now that my roux and my stock are mixed together and I have it to a nice consistency, you don't want it too thick. Okay, I'd like to show you here. Let me get rid of the roux that is on my spoon. Alright, so it's covering the back of my spoon. I can go like that and I can see the trail. Okay, but it's not super thick. Okay. At this point, all we need to do is strain our potatoes and add them to the soup. Get rid of all this water right here. And then I have all my potatoes right here, and I'm going to add them to the soup. How long is this going to cook for? Until the potatoes are fully cooked. Okay. At this point, I have my roux fully incorporated, so I can retire my whisk, and I'm going to go back to my spoon. And I'm going to mix this well, and I'm going to leave it on low heat here until my potatoes are fully cooked. Okay. Periodically come and mix it, like every 3 or 4 minutes. Come and mix it, because your roux will tend to fall to the bottom and want to stick to the pot, which means that your soup will burn. Okay, so at this point we're just going to cook it slowly until the potatoes are fully cooked. Know that if you cut your potatoes small dice, they won't take long. If you cut them medium dice, they'll take a little bit longer. If you cut them large dice, they'll take even longer. Okay, I wouldn't recommend it large dice, just because when you're trying to take a bite of any soup, you really want to make sure that you can have multiple things in your spoon at the same time. So a small diced potato will be your best bet. Also, everything else is cut about small dice, so and it's consistent with the size of the clam, which is what I'm really looking for. Okay, so we're gonna let this simmer for a little bit. It should be about 8 to 10 minutes. and then when we come back, we'll finish the soup. All right, team. We're gonna do the last touches in this clam chowder. My potatoes are fully cooked, but they're not falling apart. I know so because I tasted one. We still need a little bit of seasoning here, but not much. But we still have some volume. We're gonna add the cream first. I have about a half cup of cream. And the cream is gonna go in here. That'll cool down the soup a bit as the cream was cold. I'm gonna mix that in well. You'll notice that now your soup is looking more like a clam chowder and less like a gravy. And now you know the layers that you have to build in order to get here. Your consistency should be one that is a bit thick, but not gravy consistency, just thin enough to go back into its own place fairly quickly. So it's not like slow moving. Okay, that's what I like to say. But if you do turn up the heat, you'll get some pretty thick bubbles, and it'll kind of tend to start splattering all over the place. All right, so real quick, things to do. First thing to do is taste it, so we make sure we know where we're at. Okay, I definitely need salt. Be careful with this salt because you're gonna add clams. So just do, I don't know, I'm gonna do like a pinch and a half of salt, and I like a fairly good amount of black pepper on my clam chowder, so I'm gonna go a little bit more black pepper. Then I'm going to take some of my Tabasco, which is gonna hit the same place as the pepper, so don't put a lot. A couple of drops in there of Tabasco, and we want the Tabasco there not just for the heat. We don't want the heat, we want the acidity, because Tabasco is a hot sauce that's made with vinegar, and the richness of the soup, this is going to balance it out. Alright, and then a little tiny bit of Worcestershire sauce. Like so. Give it a good mix. You should see the black pepper floating throughout. When you mix it, you should be able to smell the Tabasco and the acidity that the vinegar that that's bringing is what you're smelling. Okay, and I'm just gonna give it a good mix and let that salt dissolve there real quick. Know that the thicker the liquid, the more time that you want to give that seasoning to dissolve in there. Okay, and we don't have it on high heat, so we gotta be careful. I'm gonna taste it one more time. Okay, I think I need a little bit more salt, so, and a little bit more acidity, so I'm gonna add a little tiny bit of Tabasco, and now I'm going to add the clams. The soup is completed, right? We're adding the clams, and we're just kind of warm them through, and then I'm gonna make sure that I have enough salt in there, but I won't add any more salt until my clams are in, so I know that at this point, once your clams are in there, leave it on for maybe a minute or two max, and then just turn it off, because we know that our clams will get tough if they stay cooking. Okay, you should have a good ratio of solids and liquid when you're looking at this soup. Cuts should be consistent throughout, and the size of all the food in here should be consistent throughout. Yep. Still need a little bit of salt. Going back for the salt. Mix it one more time. This process of tasting, you kind of have to understand that this is normal to try things more than once or twice. Like, usually try things 4 or 5 times Usually I have a rule of thumb that if I pass 5 times, I'll get somebody else to taste it because my palate's already kind of burned out on it. Okay, so if you're ever in a place after you try something 4 or 5 times and you can't tell if it's there or not, have somebody else taste it and get their feedback. There we are. Note on salt. If you can taste the salt, it's too salty. So don't over salt it. Okay? It's pretty simple. Got clam chowder right here. I have a bowl. I'm gonna turn around and grab my ladle. And just like the other soups, I'm going to go in here and try to drain a little bit of the liquid and just grab solids and bring it in. And unlike the other soups, I'm not going to do a mound in the middle. I want this to be evenly distributed. Okay, because this soup is fairly chunky, so you should have enough pieces throughout. And there we go, bowl of clam chowder. Hope you guys enjoy.